by chance hear the whole story of Tara Haywood and her stone? So, before Christmas. Oh, it's that late.
Yeah, it is.
I didn't realize. It's a long story too, so good.
Good. Okay, this meeting of the Board of Education is now called to order. Please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to welcome everyone to our meeting tonight on Martin Luther King Day, and inform everybody that Trustee Hamilton is ill and will not be here tonight. She sends her regrets. And we'll start with revisions and approval of our agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda as indicated?
Nothing for me.
Is there a motion, please, on page 2 to approve the agenda?
President Van Antwerp, I move that the Board of Education approve the agenda as printed.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Keith. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes, and we'll move forward with our agenda as printed. And our first item is an organizational item, election of officers. And I'll read the process we're going to follow. The board's past president will officiate during the election of the president. Following the president being elected, that person will conduct the election of the vice president and secretary. The person conducting the election of each position will ask 3 times for nomination for each position. The nominations will then be closed. The person conducting the election or his/her designee will compile the votes that announce those candidates receiving 2 or more votes than how each board member voted. Election of officers shall be by a majority of the full board. If only one person is nominated for the office, the person conducting the election may declare that person elected by acclamation. A nominee is elected to each position by a majority of support from the board. Any questions? This is the process we followed for about 100 years. So the first position to fill is that of president. Is there any nominations for the office of president?
Mr. President, I would like to nominate Randy Van Antwerp for the position of president.
Okay, Bo, thank you. Are there any other nominations for president? Asking a third time, are there any other nominations for president? Therefore, Mr. Van Antwerp is elected again by acclamation. Are there any nominations for vice president? I would like to nominate Bo Snyder. Is there a second nomination for president? Is there a third nomination for president? With that then, Bo, you by acclamation are elected president of the board. Congratulations.
Vice President.
Vice president. I'm trying to give it away. Yeah.
Up your position already.
I know.
It would have occurred to me by about 6 months in, Randy.
Yeah. Good. Our last nomination is for secretary. Is there a nomination for secretary, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Trustee Navaria for secretary.
Thank you, Keith. Is there a second nomination for secretary? Is there a third nomination for secretary? Then by acclamation, Terry, you have been elected secretary of the board. Congratulations. Okay, with that being done, we'll move to the superintendent's report, and I believe the first thing is the CTE consortium agreement presentation.
It is, and with the excitement of the new CTE center being built, we have to also adopt a resolution that we've had in place, but because of the changes coming forward, we have a new resolution to enter into, and I'm not going to steal any more of the words that they're going to use. But before I turn it over to Eric, I think Eric's going to do it, I want to introduce you to Diedrich Martin. Diedrich is here as well. Diedrich is the superintendent of K-RESA, took over for Dave Campbell earlier this summer, and we're glad to have you here with us, Diedrich, and if you wanted to say anything, now's your opportunity.
Absolutely. First of all, thank you for having me. It's great to be here and to finally meet you guys. As he said, I am the new superintendent of K-RESA, and knowing that I wanted to get out to the different board meetings to at least introduce myself, and that we have the Career Connect Center as a topic of discussion, I thought tonight was a great time. So, look forward to getting to work with you and know you and better support the Portage school system. So thank you for giving me some of your time.
Thank you, Diedrich. And so, you know, we as county superintendents, we meet on a bi-weekly basis on Mondays, Monday afternoons. We meet together to discuss issues of common concern and use that as professional development opportunity as well. And this is one of we've, as county superintendents, have reviewed this back in December, the presentation that you have, and have had discussion around this as well. So we're pretty well versed in this, but we have Eric Stewart, who's taking the lead, and I'm sure he'll introduce the others who are with him this evening. Eric?
Thanks so much, Mark, and thank you for having us out on this cold, snowing night. I hope everyone's staying warm. My name is Eric Stewart. I'm the Assistant Superintendent at K-RESA, covering all things career and talent development. So the world of Career Connect and the new Career Center that I hope everyone's super excited about falls in kind of my lane of responsibility. With me tonight are my good friends and colleagues. Scott Thomas, he's our Assistant Superintendent of Business Services, and our Executive Director for Secondary Programs, who's really overseeing all things CTE at K-RESA. Sarah Mansberger is here with me as well. We brought the team so we can answer any questions anybody might have. This should be fairly quick and painless, but by all means, along the way, if you have any questions, feel free to stop me. So as Mark was mentioning, and I know everyone's at least a little bit aware of, we're building the brand new Career Center over there on the corner of Sprinkle Road 994. Hope folks get to drive by. It's moving. Things are going up. The excitement's building as the building's building. So, as that kind of works towards a fall 25, opening, we have to really get the back of the house stuff in order, and the new system requires a new consortium agreement. We currently operate under a consortium agreement that supports our current decentralized model. And before we get into kind of some of what the elements of that are, I just really quickly, well, first of all, on the screen here, you'll see a team of folks. We came to the superintendent group a month ago and started talking about this, and it quickly decided that we need to kind of form up a committee. And so we drafted a few superintendents in, a few business managers from locals in, and the three of us, and we kind of hammered out what a new agreement might look like. And that's what we're asking you to consider here tonight to signing on to. This is the folks that were represented in that committee, and really appreciate their time and their work in that. But before we get into the agreement itself and any questions you might have related to the agreement, we wanted to root ourselves back into the why. Why are we doing this? Why in 2017, when we started looking at data, we all said, we need to really look at the system of career and tech ed here in Delaware County. It might not be serving all kids the best way possible. This is a stat that we continue to get quite a bit of mileage out of, because it just echoes truth to us and the need for us to focus on all students at a different level. Our current labor market, for every 10 jobs there are, the labor market requires 1 master's degree, 2 bachelor's degree, and 7 2 years or lower degrees. That's what the labor market needs for all of us to go about our daily lives. The Career Center is a focus on all 10 students, I will tell you that, but it's placing specific intentional attention on that 7 that sometimes don't get all the attention that they need to succeed. And so that's a little bit that got the conversation started. Prior to 2019, we formed up 3 groups. It was really representative of a cross-section of the community, 75 different individuals in business and industry, education, community leadership, into 3 different groups, and you see them in front of you here on the screen today. 1 group focused on career readiness and exploration, Those are those career awareness activities, those work-based learning activities. Well, no, not work-based learning activities. Career awareness and exploration activities that focus on younger students, helping them think about, who they are, what they're interested in, and starting to see the options in the world around them. Then you have that high school program design. Those are those career tech ed focused courses. That's where the idea for the centrally located career center came out of, that group. And then the third group, which I was able to chair that group, was focused on community collaboration, community support. What do you need from business and industry, from the community to make a project like this come alive? How can they support work-based learning opportunities? All the different things that we need to help career learning really come alive for students. So after these groups met, came up with a plan, we released a report to the community and went to the voters in 2019, November 2019, for support on the career and tech ed millage. That was passed at a 60 to 40% yes rate. And since that time, we've been about the business of putting the plan into action. The biggest focal part, is the Career Center. And certainly COVID came along. It slowed the plans just a little, but we're back on track. We're in a good place, and we're going to be opening up that building for 1,350 students in the fall of 2025, and hopefully a lot of Portage students included in that number. So let's see here. So since that 2019, though, there's other elements of the plans that have been activated. I just wanted to go over those. These are parts of the project that are supported by the millage. And so you see, I won't bring them all to you there, but what you see is a host of different career development activities, career awareness activities that Portage right now benefits from. And we have career development consultants in your buildings. We have work-based learning opportunities for your students. The millage does not support the current CTE model, as it were. That's still funded through a consortium agreement with the locals, through the current consortium agreement. We've started the process of developing curriculum. We've started onboarding certain staff. We started to hire what we call pathway leads for programs to make sure that the curriculum's in order and that we get all the right equipment. There's a lot of equipment in a career center building, and for 11 different, how many different programs there? So
We have 19 pathway teams and 21 programs.
19 pathway teams, 21 programs. That's why we bring Steras, because she knows that. She knows everything. And so that work, we started to ramp that stuff up with staffing and everything that it requires. Here you see a little bit more about the community collaboration side of the work. All of these things currently are ongoing. We've had to do quite a bit of research into the labor market to figure out what the right programs for the building are to get to the number of programs that Sarah mentioned there. And we've had to integrate a lot of employer support in that. We have 19 different advisory groups, I know that, with over 220 different individual advisors that we support in the planning of this process. This process really has been inclusive of the full community, and we'll continue to rely on the community, particularly that business and industry sector of the community, to make these learning opportunities come alive for students. So with that, as we prepare to take your questions for agreement, we wanted to show you kind of an early sneak peek. Okay, I'm going to caveat this thing, early sneak peek at what some of the projected budget costs come down to, right? And so what you see there on the top line is the current cost of the CTE programs, a little over $3 million for the consortium, right? That supports 940 students currently at a cost of $3,200 per enrollee. What we project with the support of the millage is that cost to go down. And we project the number of students to go up. And so the average cost per enrollee will be right around $1,900 per student. And I'll say this, you're gonna get, right now, you're getting a Chevy at the cost of a Chevy, right? You're, with this career center that we're building and all the support that we're able to layer into it, you're gonna be getting a primo Cadillac for the cost of, I don't know what's below a Chevy. A used Chevy. And so we're really excited about where the numbers are coming in, really excited about all the partnership that has allowed that to happen. Really grateful for folks like Mark and your team here at Portage Public Schools that have been true partners in this work. And with that, we have the agreement in front of you, right? We have the agreement in front of you? Do we have the agreement?
Yes.
Okay.
It's in your agenda
It's
package.
in your agenda packet, and you'll see here, a real quick slide, this is kind of how we broke down the various elements of the agreement. These are the parts that we really had to analyze in reaching the agreement, the proposed agreement that you see in front of you here today. And with that, we're happy to take any questions anyone might have about the agreement, or entertain any other questions about the Career Center or the World of Career Connect in general.
What would you say is the biggest thing that has brought the cost down so much per student?
Well, I would say there's a lot of elements to that, but the biggest, and obviously the biggest, most important thing is the passage of the millage.
Okay.
We're able to support a good chunk of the operations through the millage. Anything else you'd add to that, Scott?
It's about $10 million that's coming into our county to just support all of the Career Connect programming, compared to now where we have some state and federal funding to support, but the rest of the cost is shared
Gets
amongst the
passed on to the
districts.
locals directly. So the village was, I mean, all 9 of the locals and KRESA came together and said this is a priority for the county, and grateful for the support because we're able to do a lot of cool things now that we weren't able to do before. It's a 20-year millage, started in 2019, so we're in the spot with that.
I'll cut through the drama. I'm going to vote yes on this.
Thank you.
My question is, could you speak to just how unique this is?
Oh, it's incredible, yeah. We've had the good fortune, and I don't think I think it's no secret that we received a $100 million gift to build the actual facility. And that really, that was both an awesome gift and an amazing life-changing thing for our county. And it was also a message to us that we better aim through the roof because, this ain't gonna be good enough. We're talking world class. And so we've had the opportunity to kind of go all across the country and even, think with some folks that have done this at a global level about what the best kind of systems of career and talent development are within the world. And it's been eye-opening and it's been amazing. But a unique opportunity like this, where you're able to invest so deeply into career learning, doesn't happen. I have every anticipation that we're going to be the spot for career and technical education, definitely in the Midwest. And we're part of kind of an advanced career and tech ed consortium. It's called the CAPS Network. And folks, I anticipate us having a couple hundred tours a year come through the Career Center just because of the level we're talking about. Investment in the team, the investment in the facilities will be like no other, and we're able to do things that, as Sarah talks to their coworkers around the state, they just dream about. And that's nothing we did. That's amazing donation and an amazing community that supports this type of learning. Not everybody does.
So there wasn't a place to go out and do an exact copy.
The best place we found, we spent a lot of time at a place called Cherry Creek in Colorado, just outside of Denver, that are really done career development, career learning at a continuum level, right, K through 12 plus, at an incredible rate. Mark, I believe, had the chance to come out there with us once. We've been out there 3 or 4 times and worked with them on how did you get this up and going. What were the different elements you look from business and industry? We talked to everything from equipment to, heck, we have the same architecture firm that they used. And so it's been just a gift to have that group. But they said to us right at the beginning, you said, we were the best, you guys need to be the best now. And so it's kind of that iron sharpen iron type of thing. And so we weren't able to find a one-to-one. Certainly don't talk to a lot of folks that got a $100 million anonymous donation. That's a tough one to come by, but grateful to have, there is a community in the United States of folks that are really pushing this to a different level.
Just to piggyback on what Eric is saying, I had, in my previous district, worked in Van Buren County where VBISD had a career center that had a very good reputation, still does. I mean, they offer some great programming. So that was kind of my vision or, my experience with tech centers. And then we had a chance to go out to Cherry Creek to see similar programs, but in a space that's designed completely different from what a traditional CTE program center would look like. And that was really an eye-opener to see all these students coming in there from the various high schools in that area to get their programming. And it creates a different level of excitement on the part of students. You know, one of the things we learned here, and I don't think you mentioned, is that students don't like to go to other schools to get their programming. They'll stay here, but they don't want to go to, you name the school in the county, to get another program. A neutral site like this center really is what's going to drive those numbers that the budget is based on. I think we'll see a lot more participation by our students, and we certainly are challenged to get those numbers up to make sure that, you know, the students that really belong there and want to be there get there. It was just nice to be in that environment to see how these programs can work.
So the $1,900 per participant,
Yeah.
how is that covered? Is that just out of the family's pocket?
No, that's out of our,
That's out of
go
the
ahead, you
district,
can speak
okay.
to that.
This is why I brought my good friend. You speak to it much more.
Yeah, so it really operates very similar to how things operate under our current consortium agreement. Right now, districts pay based upon enrollment, which is calculated on a billable hour. Very similar, except this will be on seats, and so it'll be a portion of your seats compared to the total enrollment is how that $1,900, but districts are paying for that out of their general fund and part of the per pupil that they're getting in their FTE. And, you know, one of the things I just looked at is, so, you know, if a student comes to the center for like a half-day class, you know, it could be 0.3, 0.4 FTE, of which, based upon 9,608 per pupil, is kind of what districts are getting. That would equate to about, you know, anywhere from 3,100 to 3,800 is what districts are receiving for that equivalent FTE spent at the center, compared to the cost of the center actually being 1,900. So you're generating more through that FTE than what you're having to pay into the center, so.
And that's an important, I mean, that's been a priority of all of ours, making this more affordable for districts to opt in, making it a no-brainer when a kid goes to their counselor and say, hey, I want to be in career tech ed, everybody's a winner. That's the goal, so.
You know, tech centers around the state, there's not one consistent funding model for how CTE centers are funded. Some have dedicated millages for the center that go back to the 1970s, which, you know, are less cost to local districts. Others have to pay their own way to varying degrees. So I think we've got to, with the millage that we have and the reduced costs that we feel that we'll get, I think this is a good deal for all of us in the county.
And wood technology at Northern will remain a Portage program, or will that become part of this as well?
I believe, and I don't want to speak on behalf of your team, but I believe the talk is right now that it would remain a program at Northern. But it will not be a program in the Career Center. We're going to have we'll have a manufacturing, we'll have a construction trades, we'll have a mechatronics program, stuff that are similar but different.
It'll more than likely be a program that exists for our own students, not students coming in from
Yes, sir.
other schools.
And no changes with Math and Science Center, how that's operated?
Yeah, there was some conversation at some point, but no, that's no changes to the Math and Science Center. Well, if there's no other questions, I'll thank you for your time. Yeah.
I just wanted to give a quick comment.
Yes.
I like the idea that the district will not have to spend as much per student, because I had my daughter go through early middle college. And I have another daughter starting to do so also. And knowing the benefits with that, with both my mother and my sister being in drafting, you know, all of this, the benefits to students to be able to graduate from high school and be able to get a good job.
That's right.
Without having to have the cost of college if they would rather not do so, is enormous. And I knew enough when my daughter went through, when my eldest went through, to be able to seek it out and push for her to be able to do this opportunity. And she thrived because of it.
Well, that's great.
I would like to see that for more parents who may not always know that that is an opportunity, to be able to take advantage of that so that their children, if their child would learn better that way, will benefit from it. I would like to see more families have that benefit.
Got it.
Thank you very much.
Yes, it's totally an honor, and to your point, I take in that also a challenge of our work is to make sure that, you know, everybody's aware, and so we have a team that's just dedicated to getting the word out and maintaining the momentum. The building project has been long, and so we want to make sure that folks that might have heard about it back in the day, we're bringing them along and getting them excited as we ramp up for that very purpose, because we want their kids sitting in the seats. So, thank you. And thank you all. If you have any questions about the agreement or anything about Career Connect, feel free at any time to reach out. Thank you.
I just want to congratulate you on resolving the bell schedule. I can't believe that.
Yeah. Yeah, as a county, we need to get together on that one. I'll just, that's not my job, though. I'll leave it. But
It's
yes,
a multicolored rainbow document.
you
of
should see
stuff
the
that
document
done
for
to
bell
start
schedule in Kalamazoo County. It is.
We've had some discussions on that already, trying to figure out what, you know, if there are adjustments that are needed by the locals to help align when programs start and end. But if I recall correctly, Cherry Creek had kind of they had students coming and going at different times. There was some degree of flexibility, but
Well, they had A days and B days,
Yeah.
and the difference between Cherry Creek and where we're at is that's one school district. They're one school district's bigger than our entire county, but it's one school district, and so.
multiple high schools coming into
multiple high
there.
schools, Yeah.
So they've got a little more control
That's
over
right.
their schedules than we do with, you know, the 9 different school districts feeding that.
So there's more to do on the bell schedule.
No, we have our bell schedule. We have our bell schedule, and we work with principals and pick the best possible through line. I think.
Congratulations, that's great.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not sure everybody loves it, but you know, it's the best we can do. So.
Will the bus hub still be
Oh, good question.
acting the same way at Loy Norix, or will this eliminate a lot of that?
This is going to eliminate the need for the bus hub, obviously, because we're going to one central location. EFA and our arts programming, there's some twists to that a little bit that we're working through, but this will eliminate the need. It's one direct shot, so students will be out of school less time. That's the other benefit, is they're not having to
Yes.
go to a place, get on another bus, and take that to another place, and less time out of the classroom.
That alone also seems like a cost savings,
Yeah, it should be.
I would hope,
Should be.
definitely, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, folks. Thank you very much for being here. Second on our agenda is the bond project update. Johnny Edwards is here to give you that.
It's a tough act to follow, but I'll be brief. First, I want to just show, before we talk construction, the board approved several projects over the course of the last 6 months or so, so I just wanted to provide some winter project updates. It's only 2 weeks, it's probably 6 business days, 8 if you don't work for the district, and our team did an outstanding job working with vendors. So just some photos of some winter projects. First, this is a sample Haverhill and Central L pilot classroom. As the board approved pilot furniture for the 2 elementary schools, we also wanted to test the pilot furniture with the new carpet that's going to go into the new schools. So we were able to put carpet in, I believe it was 6 classrooms between the 2 schools. So the flooring that you see is what the flooring will look like in the new elementary schools. Here's just another classroom example. You'll see the new carpet as well as some sample furniture from the pilot. We included a nice portion of soft seating, so some of those stools you see near those tables, those are a big hit with kids and adults, I will say. And actually, as Dr. Jensenius and I toured some classrooms, kids are actually changing the soft seatings on different sides and sitting on them differently, which is pretty cool. So I just wanted to show the board a couple of those photos. Here's a third picture of the different classrooms. You'll see some smaller tables there. I think they're called sushi tables, where students can kind of, sit and fold their legs or stretch their legs out and be able to work there as well. So the furniture have some different arrangements of heights as well. Just moving over to our middle schools, as the board approved us to put additional acoustical panels in our science rooms specifically, along with our art and our fabrication lab. So we just took a few photos of a few extra acoustical panels that were installed over the break. We're not complete with this project. Some panels are still arriving, but as those arrive on our next opportunity, on the no school day, we will install. And here's another photo. I walked the classrooms and spoke with teachers, and many teachers said that they could notice a difference in their classrooms right away. They were appreciative of that. Finally, this was kind of a throw-in project, I should say. West Middle School's weight room, we were able to upgrade the flooring. We were lucky because we did the high school project, and there was unused flooring not touched that the manufacturer sent. And given that we had a nice amount of flooring left over, we were able to order just a little more flooring and kind of complete their weight room. And so here's the flooring from another angle. So that flooring is the exact flooring that's in both of our high school weight rooms. So those are just some projects we did over the course of the winter. Even though it was only 2 weeks, we were quite busy. Our business team did a great job, as well as Marty, my assistant in operations, for helping me to guide those projects. All right, that concludes those pictures. And then now I'll move over to talk a little bit about our construction. The structural steel has arrived at Central Elementary, and that is being installed. If you actually drive past their campus, you'll see a crane outside. So we have our first sighting of a crane. Masonry walls are still being constructed. Now they are able to go higher now that the structural steel is being installed. At the same time, work continues on things like the underground and underground utilities, and now we can work on the end-wall utilities. They're still working with the interior and exterior block bearings. And now at Central L, we're working on the gathering stair, and they're pouring the concrete for the gathering stair, which will be in the part of the school. Over at Haverhill construction is ongoing. They're working on many of the same areas within Central L, with the exception of the structural steel and the in-wall utilities. As you know, we staggered those projects intentionally. I also want to add that Dr. Jensenius is working with both principals as well as our construction management firm, OAK, to incorporate some educational opportunities for the students. This work is still under development. We'll apprise the board on this work in the upcoming months. And then finally, over at Woodland, since our last board meeting, we've held 2 schematic design meetings for Woodland. We looked at the design in 3 different areas: the site or the footprint of the building, and how that could look at a potential bus loop, parent loop, parking lot. Secondly, we looked at the school from the learning communities, and that's where our learning studios will take place for our students in their grade levels. And then third, we looked at the remainder of the school, which include the office, the cafeteria, and the elective spaces. We will go back to the staff at Woodland for an engagement session near the end of this month to gather more feedback on those concepts that are in development. So that concludes my presentation for tonight, and I'll be happy to answer any questions about either the winter break projects or the construction updates.
I just wanted to say that weight room looks great. Wow. Yeah, good move.
It's been fun to pull into the parking lots at Haverhill and Central and see the progress. I have been enjoying that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Johnny.
Thank you.
And lastly, before we get into our board education piece here, is You've probably been reading and hearing a lot about the teacher shortage and in the country and in our state. And we're also doing some things on the Grow Your Own program, trying to get people who are in education to get them into a path where they can get certified and get into the pool of available candidates. I was recently notified by the state that we're the recipient of a $285,000 grant that to help us in those efforts. I don't know, Brett, do you know any details on that yet?
I know some details.
Yeah.
No, this is actually the second grant that we've gotten through the state for Grow Your Own. Actually, the first one we got just a little bit. This will allow us to help pay tuition and fees for some of our non-certified staff who are interested in becoming certified teachers. So we've already, through some of our other grant funding through the Kalamazoo County Foundation and the other things, we've already done some of that. So in fact, our first one just graduated this last month. So Austin Giles at Northern High School. We had another teacher add a special education certification earlier last week. We celebrated her, and then we have another one in the pipeline for April as well, who'll be wrapping up then. So this additional grant money, which was gotten by our recruitment retention coordinator, Melinda Nelson, is the main hand in this, but will allow us to get even more folks doing that. And we're already building our pipeline, so to speak. And so those of you who have been in sales, you know your sales funnel. Well, right now I have a teacher recruitment funnel because I want to get as many in as we can get, so.
I just heard from someone the other day when we were visiting a school building about an employee there that is one of our students, former students, but that is interested in pursuing, and it was real exciting to hear about that. And knowing the person, I think it's going to be a great thing for them.
So we're very excited to have this opportunity and to have this funding to be able to help not only ourselves, but helps obviously the community as well.
I've had people question the program to me and like, why are we doing this? And the benefit of having someone who has classroom experience when they start their first year of teaching, not just 8 or 16 weeks of classroom experience, but good, solid classroom experience, that is phenomenal. That is so valuable to the teachers and to the students. They can hit the ground truly doing well instead of figuring things out those first couple of years. Thank you.
Wow, great news. Great grant writing. Wow.
Good, yeah, so I think Michelle and her grant writing skills are put to work in it, and so definitely a team effort, but definitely a shout out to Melinda for leading the effort and keeping me on task, my deadlines as well, so.
Great. Thank you, Brad. Appreciate your input there. We move over to our board education piece, which is our kind of our summary report of ends policy 1.1. So Dr. Pasco.
Well, good evening, Superintendent Beeline, trustees. Tonight we're here to present the final overall report for MR11. This year we presented the spring data for 2023, high school in October, middle school in November, and Dr. Justinius was before you in December presenting on the elementary data. So today's presentation is a collection to see how we did in a few areas. So we focused on improving over prior years is one category we're going to look at tonight. If we're approaching comparator schools, and then if we're exceeding our comparator schools' performance on state assessments, and we're looking at 3 years prior. So we're comparing 18, 19, and 2022 to how we did in 2023. Looking at specifically MSTEP, PSAT, SAT, at the respective grade levels of 5th, 8th, and 11th, where we have the 3 years worth of data. All right, so we'll get into it. The first metric in our MR11 summary looks at how we've improved over prior years. So for our prior year's measurement, we average, again, the results from the previous 3 years relevant data, so 2018, 19, and 2022. Again, 20 and 21 were not included due to disruption in the testing due to the pandemic. So this 3-year average kind of minimizes that impact particularly a particular cohort of students. So we have 4 metrics here that are green, meaning we improved by more than 2% and met expectations. So that was in 8th grade ELA, evidence-based reading and writing, for all students, economically disadvantaged, as well as our Black and African American students, and our 11th grade Black and African American students in math. So those were 4 areas in which we highlighted in green. We have 6 that are flat, meaning they're yellow, so we're not declining or improving, kind of just staying stagnant. Therefore, we say we're partially meeting expectations. And then there are 9 that are declining, so that's the red, so that's -2% or more, meaning we did not meet expectations. So overall, to sum this up, our middle school scores were kind of the most positive, with 3 indicators improving, and then 5th grade changes were concerning for our teams, with declines of 5 of the 6 groups. That's the first one. The second metric in MR11 summary looks at how we're approaching comparative districts by ranking comparable communities on their change in performance relative to this 3-year average. This indicates if we are trending towards the top or not, and that's regardless of change in performance or test conditions. And again, we're looking at 18, 19, and 2022 as that 3-year average. And these are district-wide measures for 5th and 11th. We don't have 8th grade yet because of that transition, if you remember, back in 18 and 19 from MSTEP to PSATA. So maybe next year's report or the following will be able to have that 3-year trend data to include. So here we have just 5th and 11th. So one of our metrics are flat, meaning we rank 3 or 4 in change relative to other districts, landing more in the middle, and that's for SAT, evidence-based reading and writing. The remaining 34 are declining relative to our peers, meaning ranking lower than 4, placing us in the bottom half of the other 7 comparators. So we did not increase our performance as well as the top 2 districts, therefore we did not meet the expectations by these metrics in the way they're set up. And then the third metric in MR11 summary looks if we're exceeding comparator schools' performance on 2023 state testing. So we interpret as meaning ranking first among all comparators. We also include rankings when there's limited numbers of comparable communities, and you can kind of see that based off of the numbers up there of some of our subgroups. We indicate that on the table. And those are areas in which we're able to actually access the data. And so on this table, we're either first and in green, or anything from 2 to 8 is in red. So being top ranked is our goal, and that's what we're always aiming for. So we have 2 of our 21 metrics, meaning the assessment and the group in which it applies to, we rank first, and that's SAT, evidence-based reading and writing. And we have 4 of our metrics where we rank second, all within the PSAT and SAT. So that means in 4 areas we're very close to achieving that gold standard and landing in green. And then again, the major concern is the 3 metrics that we see within the 5th grade MSTEP, which we'll continue to focus on moving forward. Sometimes you read articles that Portage Public Schools is the top performing school district in the county. So we've seen that from time to time. But I wanted to share with you just a different lens tonight of some of the work that's happening with our instructional coaches within the CIA and with our building teams to just get a different frame on all of this data, especially just looking at what we just looked through and the 3 presentations that we did throughout the fall and into the winter. And then maybe be more of a collective conversation as we move forward. So as our instructional coaches began the work of supporting building teams and engaging our staff in data reviews, specifically around the College Board PSAT 8 results, we started to search for comparator schools that were kind of more accurately reflecting each of our middle schools. The goal was to provide our teams with an apples-to-apples comparison versus being averaged into overall district scores, and that's how we interpret this particular monitoring report. So this has been really relevant and impactful for us and our building teams. So you'll see here we have 2 schools that are in our comparator group when we look at Central Middle School in particularly, but many are not in that case. So you see one from Zeeland and you see one from Hudsonville. So what we did was we identified similar schools for each of our middle schools based on a weighted index. So we looked at economically disadvantaged, we looked at the total enrollment, And we looked at the percentage of special education, and then we also looked at the same race and ethnicity groups that we look at for Monitoring Report 1.1. So very similar, and that all got pulled from my school data with the help of Melissa O'Keefe in our office. And then these criteria, there's similar criteria that we look at in MR 1.1, but they were determined by our middle school teams and our folks within the CIA as to what was important to them. And then what we did was we ranked each middle school's achievement against its top matching schools for the 3 previous years, so not including those pandemic-affected years. So, for example, each school may have different set of comparators based on the criteria that, again, more accurately reflects who they are. And what you see up here, we initially ran a group of the most comparable top 30 within the state. And these are the top 10 most comparable. And again, I'm using Central Middle as one example here. And initially looked at the 30. So we kind of narrowed it down to see who's our closest comparable. So we're looking at schools with higher rankings within that comparable group to identify what instructional practices are working best, working to see if we can use these practices to improve our academic achievement. For example, on this slide, you see specifically the PSAT 8 math, where Central Middle School, within that group, we ranked 6 out of 10 to similar schools in 2023. But CMS had previously ranked 4th in 2019 and then 3rd in 2022. So these are schools, if we were to look specifically, at Central Middle within the state, that align to those criteria. And again, we're not in the business here in terms of MR 1.1 to compare schools to schools, but I thought I would share a little lens on how we think and what we look at to help try to improve alongside some of the data that we present to you. So, I don't know, I hope that this is helpful. And then this next one here is North Middle. Did it click through? Yeah. So this slide shows North Middle. And, when we talk with the North Middle School staff and we look at within our 3 middle schools, we know that North Middle School is unique and in its own way. And it's not the same as West or Central, and we respect that, right? And so it's hard sometimes when we put them all into one group. And sometimes I would say it's not fair. So when we look at North Middle School and to their most top 10 comparables in the state, they rank 4th out of 10 in 2023. And if we were to go back in time, they rank 2nd in 19, actually in both 2019 and 2022. So here in this group, we don't see any of our comparator districts showing up that have the specific makeup, especially when it comes to economically disadvantaged and the percentage of special education, as well as the total enrollment. Again, this type of data is very helpful when looking at what the top schools are doing on the list and helps to give us a more fair comparison for schools like North Middle, for example, and its uniqueness. So we plan and we are following this at elementary. We're looking at following this at the high school level to do a similar approach. To really narrow down to true comparators that match their specific demographics. And again, a little different than how we look at it here, but really helpful for our building teams. And then, again, this is just a middle school example. We're looking at 8th grade math. So this one shows West ranking 3rd out of the 10 that we found was most comparable to them in 2023. And then if we were to go back into 2019, they would rank 3rd in 2019 and 2nd in 2022. So here, we only see one of our selected comparator schools show up within the search based on the criteria that we selected, and I believe it might have been Hudsonville Middle School. So we share this because it's important to show that there's some great things going on in terms of academic achievement in this district, and we wanted to highlight some of that. Sometimes MR 1.1, particularly this year, there's been it seemed like a lot of negative and some darkness there, but I just wanted to highlight some of the good work that's happening. And when we look at true comparators, and just using middle school as an example, there are some good stuff going on. There is some really good stuff going on, and we are seeing some highlights. Again, I say this may also be a time where we look at maybe who's in the current comparator group. I know it's been a group since I've been here for 7 years. I don't know, Bo, maybe going on a decade of using that same set. And I'm not sure how much other districts have changed, because I know we've changed. And so maybe working through Superintendent Beelang and the board, as you work together, we're more than happy to kind of work collectively with you all if you want to look at a different approach. And it could even be not just who's in the group, but maybe, what we analyze and how we present it to all of you. So maybe a further discussion. I know we've talked a little bit about that throughout the last few months and this school year, but again, I don't share this to get into the business of comparing school to school. I just wanted to share some examples of what we do in our work and what's meaningful for the teams outside of just, the MR11 report that we present to all of you. So hopefully that was just, maybe some helpful tidbit for you. You've heard some of this before. In terms of the next steps, we've added quite a bit in your report, probably more than we have added before. So if you go to the actual monitoring report, you'll see a lot of what I'll highlight here in terms of what we're doing about all of the reports that we've done this year and the data that we've been able to articulate and then summarize tonight. We continue to focus on our two pillars around improving Tier 1 instruction and improving the culture and climate in all of our school communities. Again, the things that we'll go through tonight, the focus is really to impact long-term sustainable change. We're not looking for Band-Aids or short-term fixes. The stuff that we have gone over and I'll go over again tonight is stuff that we hope has an impact at each of our levels. Okay? So when we look at Tier 1, focus on number sense routines and formative assessments. You heard us talk about that, Dr. Jensenius and Dr. Sheehan. We have 3 FAME facilitators in each elementary building. They lead their colleagues through cycles of learning and they apply that formative assessment process. We're engaging in knowledge-rich curriculum, which you've heard about. Students are able to connect their learning to real-world knowledge. And they need that prior knowledge to activate and connect to new learning. We have about 130 teachers, K-8, trained on letters, which is an intensive, bless you, ongoing PD series that goes on approximately 2 years. And teachers how to teach students to read. It also helps them implement some of the ELA resources such as UFly. So as of right now, we have over 35 teachers that have completed both courses. So congratulations and kudos go out to the teachers that are going above and beyond to do this training, because we know that it's going to have an impact on our students. We're engaging in the curriculum design cycle with the help of Dr. Sheehan, who's doing a wonderful job leading all of our subject areas that are due for a cycle. Again, we're prioritizing that based off of needs. We came to you a few presentations ago to say, hey, maybe we need to look at the timeline for math. So we're doing that in conversations with our leaders and our principals and our coaches, so that's ongoing. There's more of a connectivity with our professional learning on our PD days. So with October, February, and April, it's more sequential, it's progressive, it's building on one another. I think our teachers are starting to feel that and our administrators are starting to see that. So that's our goal, and we'll continue to have that approach. Our PD plan is aligned with what our buildings are saying within our continuous improvement work. We've done a lot of that with the help of Dr. Jensenius and some of our instructional coaches, Dr. Sheehan, Courtney Hoff, Jessica Winstanley. They've been part of those conversations where we go into the buildings and we meet with their continuous improvement teams. We find out what their needs are, and then we do our best to align the district professional learning to support what they say they want to take their buildings, and that has been very meaningful for our teams. We continue to analyze our results, both with MSTEP, evidence-based reading and writing. We're still utilizing our screen of data at district data reviews for student support and system adjustments. Our math and our ELA instructional coach positions, they're playing a critical role in data analysis and supporting teachers. So Colin Newsmer, Laura Cleesby, and Jessica Winstanley in particular. And they're branching, I know I say math and ELA, but they're branching out into other departments and subject areas as well as we do cross-curricular planning and we do project-based learning. They're not just math and ELA. So they've been a wonderful resource, and thanks to the team for kind of thinking outside of the box in terms of what our needs were within our department to better support the buildings. That's a big win, and hopefully we could continue to sustain that. We have tutoring for students experiencing homelessness as well as our ESL learners. ESI has added positions to help address academic needs as well. So we have a student academic support specialist to address the differentiation of instruction in the classroom as we adopt new curriculum. And then we also increased 3 interventionists at the elementary level. They provide reading and math support for those in need and also to ensure that our curriculum is accessible to all students as we go through the curriculum review cycles. So that's more of the tier 1 piece. And then the other part is our improving our culture and climate. So we're still focusing on professional learning of our social emotional learning competencies and our proficiency skills, and alignment and strengthening PBIS. You've heard us talk about positive behavior interventions and supports. We still have a strong partnership with Griffin Place for providing restorative practices training and implementing that within our schools. We're reestablishing the peer-to-peer programs in all of our buildings. Our professional learning provided for staff. You see there's a focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. We continue to build on that. Trauma-informed schools training is another essential part of what we do. You've heard me talk about a lot of the school safety stuff with CSTAG, and our comprehensive threat assessment piece to help support kids proactively as they struggle. We have our mental health coordinator in place, Mary Ann. There's 2 new ESI positions called the Student Success Coordinators, and they focus on building positive behavior supports, increase engagement strategies, and assistance on implementing successful intervention and engagement. And then they've also added a mental health specialist that works with Mary Ann Joint, and she's supporting school-wide based cognitive behavior therapy, crisis prevention, and suicide prevention. So that's a few of the things that we have going on to support both of those strategies. And then lastly, in this presentation, we always want to give you an update on anything that involves changes around the programs of studies. So if you remember back in January in 2022, we came and presented the program of studies for approval. Last year, we made some adjustments. There was quite a few adjustments last year that we had you review. And so this year, we wanted to update you. There was not too much to update, but we did make some general changes. So we clarified the 6th grade ELA course description language. We added some language on disciplinary literacy and project-based learning. At the high school level, there were some updates to the language on graduation requirements to ensure that they aligned with the administrative guidelines, and Superintendent Beelang was very helpful working with us on that. We also updated the personal finance course language to align with those new graduation requirements that will take into effect for, I believe, the class of 2028. And then the last couple of changes were to some of the IB language, mainly in world language, and then as always, we're updating the NCAA approved core course list. And we'll continue to inform you as a board each year as updates and changes are made, so that you always have that most current information in terms of updates in the programs and studies. That's all I have for you tonight. Be more than happy. We have the team here, Dr. Sheehan and Dr. Jinsinius, as well as myself, if any questions or comments for the MR11 summary.
Oh, good, I can talk. I was giving others a chance first. You just gave a lot of really great strategies, and that was a mouthful.
Yeah, it was.
I could tell you were like getting it out. A lot of really great strategies. My question for you, as a teacher, we need to write SMART goals. And I'm sure you're familiar with the term, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. How will we know that you are successful? And last meeting, we talked about 3 to 5 years. I'm not expecting, I should say, an immediate, woohoo, we're number 1, by a year from now, because that's not going to happen. But how do we know that we're on the right track? Would you be able to give us a SMART goal that we can then use next year or the following year to know that, when we look at this again in 3 to 5 years, we're on the right track?
And I think when I talked about the things that we're doing and the focus on this long-term sustainable change, I know as we go through that journey, there's going to be wins along the way that could be tied to, say, SMART goals, more short-term. And I think we want to highlight those. I was talking to these 2 ladies today, and there could have been a slide on here to answer just that question around, okay, so some of the stuff that we're presenting to the board, it's not new. You've heard us say this for a couple years now. A lot of this stuff has stayed the same because we're going to stay the course and we're going to be persistent, but we're always going to revisit it to say, all right, what isn't working? Is there something that we need to peel away? And we're never going to come up here with a new slate of things, because we know this is research-based, evidence-based, and we know that this has been working in other places. So that's why we're focused in on it. And we've got a lot of talent and a lot of knowledge within the district too. So we're hoping to be able to present as we go some of the short-term wins and some of those short-term gains within that long-term sustainable change initiative.
So what should our expectations be?
You know, Dr. Sheehan and Dr. Vincinius, anything comes to mind in terms of?
Well, yes, I think when I think about your question, I ask that question back, what is it that the board, working through MR11, what is it that you would like us to be presenting to you? So we come to you with MR11 with the information that you've asked for. So I guess as a board, what is it that we could bring to you that would help you see maybe another part of the picture? Because Mike, Dr. Pasco is right. We have a lot of those SMART goals. We have a lot of that data everywhere, but that's not what this is not what we've been tasked with. So we would like to know what is it specifically as a board that we could bring to you to help fulfill that.
So right now it says, students demonstrate continuous improvement in the mastery of core curriculum standards with results approaching or exceeding the highest performing comparable districts. And you know that. And that's why we see so much red. And I know you're doing more than just not meeting expectations. I know you are. And so I'd like to see those wins stated. This is what we're aiming for so that as we're getting to that point, because that point's not reasonable to expect by next year. It really isn't. So how can we have that?
I think the board's going to have a discussion around this because this really ties into this whole concept of over the long term. And that's something we've wrestled with. I know the board has wrestled with what does that mean? And you're attempting to quantify a concept that we haven't, as a board, you haven't really come to any agreement on. So I think that's a discussion for the board to have, perhaps at one of its retreats to, if you want to refine that. I think as ENDS 1.1 has evolved over the years, the board decided, we not only want to look at ourselves, but how we compare to other districts. So the bar that we've set is pretty doggone high. Yeah. And we're trying to present data at the district level and not get as deep as comparing building to building, which Dr. Pasco was trying to show that there are other ways of presenting information. But that takes up, that creates, time, a burden on time of extracting that data. And does the board want us to get that deeply? I mean, we've been presenting at the district level. To get at some of this stuff in a different way is going to require more time, more presentations, more of your time in analyzing the data, which we're happy to do that, but we're trying to find that right balance of what is the level of information to provide you while at the same time keeping our bar very high. But district data doesn't always tell you what building level data tells us, and which we use out, amongst ourselves, but is that something that needs to be, come to the board, and does the board want to spend time that way? So I think the board's got some work to do in either refining this end or really telling us we're not on the right path with the way we've interpreted your end statement.
I'd like to be able to have something achievable. And we have high goals, but.
Again, I think that's an issue that you're gonna have to take up with your fellow board members, because, you're setting, it seems like you're setting up a criteria that you want to see happen. I don't know if the board wants to see that happen, the way you stated it.
And the trick is, there are literally thousands of things going on in this district to move all these needles.
Right.
And how do you summarize a thousand things? And so, I mean, your question has, and.
So how do we summarize to show success?
Well, and so watching this kind of ping pong from a comment here, a question there, a response there, and a response there, this is all headed where I think it should go, which is, our policy 1.1 is the most edited and debated policy that we've had. And it's not one retreat, it'll probably be 3. And it'll take us into the fall because these discussions get complicated and sometimes we lead to dead ends and we have to back up. And sometimes the debate is worth it, even at the end if we barely change the policy. because we've all gotten to a smarter place through all the dialogue and kind of with your help. So, I mean, I support it. And I think over the years, debates on 1.1 have been the best, most interesting kind of debates and kind of, because your question is it's a really hard question.
The board's here to provide accountability, just as we are held accountable. And I think that I want to see you guys share your success, not just show the red.
Well, but we could do that easily by just comparing ourselves to the other schools in Kalamazoo County, because we're at the top of that. So that shows success. But what our goal is to push ourselves farther than that. So I think we have to keep that in mind, that we can easily show success. But it's just what we use.
Are we comparing to comparable schools if we do that?
And is that the driver? So it's a lot of questions. And we can show success, but how do you want to show that success?
Well, again, the challenge, I think.
Sounds good.
I think the
Let's add that.
challenge is, do we present that data at a district level, or do we drill down into the building level data? And if we can easily go into the building level data, but we'll probably have, as Dr. Pasco alluded to, we're going to have to create different comparator schools for each of our schools, because none of our schools are the same. You can't compare, as an example, the Haverhill to a Mooresbridge without creating comparator districts or comparator schools for each of those. And that really extends and expands what we'd be presenting to the board. And it might be more reflective of what we're doing and maybe get us more green spots on a graph. It is a lot more work. So, again, I think our challenge is to try to find that balance, what works for you that's doable.
So I'm going to throw out a question that I gave Dr. Gesenius, and I will address it to you. How can we as a board best support you?
I think
Yes.
Think
about it.
Yeah.
Think about it. Come back with that. That's not a.
Right. Well, one, I would say you have been supportive. Just being able to have that honest dialogue, over the years, because sometimes we've come in front of you and it's been more green than what we've seen maybe this year. And I would say in the times where we haven't, when we talk about this next step slide, you truly understand the amount of work that's taking place in this district and how hard people are working. And so that's the support that we feel and we continue to feel from all of you. As tough as it is sometimes to present these numbers, we know they're not a true reflection. Again, this is a set of comparators that we have decided on, but just as my 3 slides show, when you look at true comparators to our individual buildings, there's a lot of wins and there's a lot of highlights that we could use just by looking at the data in a different way and comparing ourselves in a different way. But I don't know. I feel like you have been supportive, whether it's been more of a challenging report or it's been a little bit more favorable. And just continue to I guess acknowledge and recognize the work that's happening out there from our teaching staff, our support staff, our leaders. Some of the district folks that are helping support the building teams the best we can, and really our effort in closing the gap between central office and the buildings. I mean, that's one of our #1 goals in our office, and our vision is for them to feel the support and feel like we do understand, what their needs are and where they're trying to take their buildings, and then us listening to that and providing more guidance and more resources in order for them to obtain their goals. So. I guess that's how I would answer that. I don't know if anything comes to your ladies' minds around how the board can better support the work that we're doing. And like you said, Kim, maybe it's not an answer for tonight, but something for us to take away and
Think about it, give us some feedback too. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Kim. We appreciate your questions.
I appreciate your presentation tonight, and I appreciate you looking at those individual schools. I know that's not what we usually do, but, it's our job to set high expectations for the district, and that's why we didn't choose to be the best in Kalamazoo County, because that's too comfortable. We've got to give it some stretch, which we've done, But as you said, we've used those comparator districts for 10 years or more now. And in 10 years, demographics have changed. When I look at the elementary numbers here and I compare ours to the two districts that we compare ourselves to that are always on top, I took a look at the free and reduced lunch there, and the elementary schools, it's like 20%. And, you know, we're around 33 or whatever the number is. And overall, the district, when I joined the board 15 years ago, was less than 25. So, I mean, those things have changed, and we ought to have a fair comparison that still gives us high expectations and some stretch. So I appreciate you presenting that data and suggesting that maybe we need to huddle and come up with something that would work better for the district and for us in terms of monitoring performance here. So those are all great suggestions. The other thing I wanted to say is I really like those standard growth percentiles that you showed for middle school and elementary, and I know you went through and explained how you calculate those, but to me, there's a lot of good news there in terms of the percent of our students who are, you know, growing at good rates. So there's good news here. And the other thing too is if you take those top two comparator schools out of there, and every measure, we're in the hunt. I mean, we're within a couple of points of a couple of the districts, so there's good news here. Yeah.
And what we do learn as trustees over the years is that there is a degree of unexplainable randomness in these things year to year. And sometimes you just turn the corner and you're looking at red, and everybody's working hard. But this question of what we could do to help or be more supportive, the word I wrote down is to make sure that in our feedback we're balanced. And I'm saying this of us to you, because with those comparative districts, the bar's set high, and there's gonna be red on there from time to time. The thing that I love that I get from you guys is when it's red, there's no tap dancing, there's no excuse making. I mean, you guys really embrace it and own it. And so when I come back to the balanced, we put that in policy, and so it forces you to go through this, and sometimes it's tough. On the other side, there's the MLive article, and Terry and Randy, I think you've referenced it here over the break, that the state data that shows our building scores. And what was the headline? It's like Portage tops the area in the number of highest rated buildings. And it's like, well, kudos. It's like, yeah. So anyway, we can't get too kind of stuck on the results of 1.1. The bar has been set uncomfortably high, and the fact that you guys embrace that gives me comfort, and it's appreciated. And I think, I mean, I sense a series of good retreats coming up. I mean, kind of boring on one level, but kind of interesting, but very interesting. And important to just slow down and pick through this. And I'm going to go back to my pet issue on here. It's the African American students and the economically disadvantaged students, where the N sometimes is low. And really get weird is thinking of a new way to look at that. Right, so I think all those things on the table, and look forward to those meetings.
If you've got retreats in the future that you feel our presence to be helpful, at least engage in a little bit of your time together, by all means. Through Mark, just let us know if we've participated in a few over the years, and this might be one where it might be helpful to have a couple of us in the room for at least a little bit of time, and then let you have your discussions. But we appreciate you just being open to where we're at currently, and just taking a look at where we may need to go in the future.
Yeah, I just adding to, to your comment about the red, if you take a look at the end statement, there's the improvement, the approaching, and the exceeding. And if you divide that into thirds roughly, exceeding is a yes or no. If you're not exceeding, it's red. And so that's just the way we've chosen to depict that. I don't know if there's another better way, but when you say exceed, there's no middle ground on that. And so I guess if that's, and maybe we're trying to measure something that is unfair to how we're depicting with, what it looks like in the end as you look at the red, yellow, and green. So there may be other ways still that we can we can show you how we're improving that doesn't look like it's red.
That's
If
the
that
ultimate
makes sense.
goal, and, this is the ultimate goal here, and are we on the right track to get, are we headed the right direction, is what I like to see. I just want to say thank you, other board members, for a good discussion just now. That was awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
I just want to reinforce what Bo said. We really appreciate when you come with the data. You show us the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we appreciate you being honest and feeling like you can do that. And that's a really good thing. We don't want to lose that. We never want to lose that.
We don't either. We appreciate the support. Appreciate you listening to, well, what tended to be the longest presentation from my colleagues once I sit down and read my text messages. But you know, this is what we do. This is our work, and these presentations are just sharing what we do. The sense of urgency is there, and I think that's another thing that the board needs to understand, is that we're not, like you said, we're not making excuses. We're going to continue to create that sense of urgency in our teams and our leaders. We have it in ourselves, and we're just going to continue to try to get better, because that's what we all expect of ourselves. Else we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be in Portage Public Schools if we didn't have high expectations for our kids and for ourselves. So.
And you already have plans in place and have for a while, so that's impressive too.
The strategies sound like really good strategies.
Thanks for the questions, and appreciate you listening. Yeah.
I mean, my last quick comment is, you know, the critique of Portage Public Schools could always be, well, was it a district that rested on its laurels?
Yeah.
And I don't think it is. I mean, I don't think you guys rest on this stuff, and so, yeah, kudos.
We
Because
constantly
it would
get
be
better.
easy, it would be easy to do that.
Yes.
And I don't think you guys are doing that, so that's appreciated and respected.
It'd be easy to say we're the big fish in a small pond for just using that as a phrase, but I love that we are pushing towards better.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. We're at our comments and communications section. We have no comments from citizens this evening. Are there any comments from board trustees?
Well, I want to just say to my fellow board members, Happy New Year. And I wanted to relate a quick story about an experience I had over the break. Most of you know a couple of my kids live in Washington, D.C., and we accompanied them back there to spend several days over New Year's. And on New Year's Eve day, following church, we went out for brunch in Georgetown, and we're sitting in a restaurant in view of the door. And at the doorway, there was a family of four standing there, a mom, a dad, probably a high schooler and a middle schooler. The high schooler had a Michigan sweatshirt on. The middle schooler had a Portage Invite t-shirt on. That's awesome. So I was just like, oh, he has a Portage Invite t-shirt. And as they were walking by, we said, are you from Portage? And they said, oh, no, we're from Grand Rapids, but we go to Portage to run every year. Great. Talk for a few minutes more. As I was sitting there, I looked, and I said, oh, wait, are you Congresswoman Hillary Scholten? Yes, I am. So it's just, to me, it was great to know that we have a member of Congress whose child is participating in activities in our district. I thought that was really cool. So super friendly, very engaging, nice to see her, and yeah, Portage Invite shirt.
Wow. And one had a University of Michigan shirt on?
Yes,
Man,
yes.
come on.
So we're all good.
Thanks, Terry.
Yeah, just kind of a fun thing.
That was a good one. Top that. Okay.
To all the teachers who might be listening, enjoy sleeping in tomorrow.
Again.
Again, yes. I have been receiving text message after text message of various districts announcing, and so enjoy that to those of you who are watching online.
Yes, sir.
Randy, just a quick comment. I want to thank my colleagues for the last half hour, and Michael and your team. Good discussion. 1.1 is kind of the heart of it. Look forward to, I suspect, a number of retreats where we will get into this and to the heart of it again. Always good discussion. The second thing I will say is that this year's Community Read book is Salt to the Sea. I read it yesterday. It's a page turner. Sarah Brown, the librarian at Portage Central, gave this to me last week, and she said, just keep passing it around. So I'm hoping one of my colleagues will walk out of it. It is an absolute page turner. And the event will be in, I think, late March.
Yeah, like 19th or something like that. That book is on my book club's list for this year, so.
I'll
we
call
will be
dibs on
reading
that one. I needed to read.
Maybe we can pass it around the board and it can make the rounds here the next couple of months.
Thanks, Bo. Anyone else? Just a couple of things. I want to remind everybody that our community survey went live today, and it'll be available for the community through the 26th of January. And you can access it on the app, you can access it online, and you can access it with the QR code. No, you can't. Not yet. Not with the QR code. So online or on your app. So we appreciate the community's participation in that. And also wanted to thank Eric Albertus and Central High School for hosting us for our first school visit that we had last week to discuss academics and culture at the school. So we appreciate that, and we've got some more tours lined up this week. So anything else from anybody?
Just a quick underscore, that community survey asked the community some questions about policy 1.1, among other things. So yes, join our debate.
Thank you.
Discussion.
Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda, and we have a number of organizational items. The first one is to designate depositories for school funds. There's a number of banks listed there. The second is to approve our Board of Education meeting schedules. The third is to designate users of the safety deposit box, which includes our board secretary. The next is to designate the electronic funds transfer officer. The next is to appoint our board recording secretary, Barb Atkinson. Next is to approve our district legal counsel, and again, Troon is our primary legal counsel for the board. And pre-approve attendance reimbursement per bylaw 0175.1. And that's to approve 2024 board member attendance at board-related classes, conferences, and workshops, etc., and approve reimbursement for actual and necessary expenses incurred to attend said events. And finally is to approve our minutes from the December 11th, 2023 regular business meeting and closed session. Are there any exceptions to the consent agenda as presented? Hearing none, the consent agenda is approved. And we'll move to assurance of district performance. And that requires the approval of monitoring report 1.1. There's a motion on page 21.
Yes, President Van Antwerp, I make the motion that the Board of Education accept as presented the monitoring report on 1.1 global events as a reasonable interpretation and evidence of compliance with policy.
Thank you, Keith.
Second.
Thank you, Terry. I don't believe there's any discussion. We've discussed it thoroughly, correct? All those in favor of approving monitoring report 1.1, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The monitoring report is approved. Now we have two required action items. The first is on page 30, and that's the CTE consortium agreement. And it's on our agenda tonight because it's on the agenda for KRESA to approve it this coming Thursday, which requires all the locals to approve that in advance. On page 30, is there a motion, please?
President Van Antwerp, I move that the Board of Education approve the resolution authorizing CTE consortium agreement as presented.
Thank you, Terry. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the CTE consortium agreement, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion passes and the consortium agreement has the approval of Portage School. Our next required action is the planned use of virtual instruction days. This was discussed at our last meeting. Is there a motion, please, on page 44?
Yes, President Van Antwerp, I'll make the motion that the Board of Education approve the resolution for district planned use of virtual instruction days as presented.
Thank you, Keith. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion passes and the virtual instruction days planned use is approved. Our next item is a discussion item, the Building Site and Sinking Fund Resolution. And we have two presenters.
Good evening, Board of Ed, Superintendent Beeling. Back in December now, it was like quite a while ago, or a month. Johnny and I came to you with a presentation giving you information on the history of building site and sinking funds here at Portage, what building site and sinking funds can cover in general. We came to you with a recommendation for renewal of our building site and sinking fund, and also to expand the scope of what can be covered with those funds to include technology, safety and security of transportation vehicles. So included in your board packet tonight is that resolution and that information that was probably in the board packet in December. It's just a discussion item this time that you will take action on in 2 weeks so that we can move forward with getting the ballot language and everything wrapped up and out for voting. Any questions?
So many reasons to support this. And one is, I think the law change that will now allow buses and transportation items to be purchased from this fund, so freeing up general fund dollars for things like learning recovery and salary. Yeah.
And it will just be a it'll be a renewal of the same levy amount. It's currently at .4988 mils. It's experienced a small rollback from the .5 level.
Good.
Thank you. Our second discussion item is new audiovisual equipment for Central High School and Northern High School.
Yeah, this is just a routine replacement of the equipment in those rooms, specifically choir and band, both in this facility and in Northern. Most of that original equipment dates back to 2009. Had a very good run, especially considering the extensive amount of use that equipment receives. So the goal here is to bring the rooms back to full functionality, but also match what we're doing at the middle schools now with those more modern AV systems. Our teaching staff share spaces between the buildings, and so to provide them with a consistent experience will be nice, but it also give them more flexibility with how they can use that equipment for instruction. We did go for an RFP. We had 2 responses. Parkway was the low at just a little over $61,000. This will come from the bond fund. And I do want to reiterate, this is just for the equipment. We're going to be doing the configuration and installation ourselves. Portage is very blessed to have a couple of AV techs on staff that know this stuff backwards and forward, specifically Steve Van Dyke and Troy Brasher. And they'll be able to handle this install without any real fuss. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions the board has.
Does the displaced equipment have any secondary use?
Most of it at end of life at this point in time will be recycled, but when we take equipment out of rooms, we do evaluate it for potential reuse on other places in the district. But historically in this district, we're trying to get every last mile out of everything we buy, and frequently when we take something out, there isn't much useful life left in it.
Thank you, Dan. Okay, so trustees, I'm gonna need your monitoring report evaluation form, I need your meeting evaluation, and the next thing we need to do is approve a resolution to go into closed session, and we will not be coming back in open session after that closed session. So there's a motion on page 63, please.
President Vinnie Antwerp, I move that the Board of Education move into closed session to discuss collective bargaining strategy as allowed under the Open Meetings Act 15.268, Sections 8C.
Second.
Thank you. And this is a roll call vote. Keith?
Yes.
Emily?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Bo?
Yes.
Kimberly?
Yes.
And Randy? Yes. So, very good. We are going into closed session, and we'll wait till our audiovisual equipment is,
Confirmed.
yes.